Hey everybody, welcome to The Bottom Line. I'm Michael Noland. Tonight we're going to be talking about the top 10 power brokers of classic rock. Why classic rock? Well, a lot of the younger rock bands these days don't have a lot of power in the music industry, with a lot of people turning their ears to hip-hop and rap, along with traders such as the Rock and Roll Hall of Shame. The Rock and Roll Hall is to blame. The Rock and Roll Hall of waning viewers. Things haven't gotten much better. So that begs the question, just who are the top 10 power brokers of classic rock? All right, so first of all, where would one even go to get a definitive list on the top 10 power brokers of classic rock? Well, I went to UCR, aka Ultimate Classic Rock. They sometimes have really good articles, and I like to kind of peruse them. Not necessarily in this case. I have a problem with this list, and we'll discuss that as we go along. First of all, the article starts off by saying which classic rock stars currently wield the most power. We asked our writers to look at the current landscape and determine which bands or artists could make the biggest waves in 2025. They go on to mention that their criteria for this list are album sales, ticket sales, and cultural impact. Now, tonight's not exactly a top 10 list. You see, there was a tie for the 10th position, so there are 11 artists covered in this article. Tied for 10th position was U2 and the Foo Fighters. The article credits YouTube sales, especially since they did their residency at the Sphere, and album sales of, well, it was an album that just did all their old songs. They were slight reworking. It's a horrible album, but evidently it sold well enough to meet their criteria. And of course, U2's cultural impact is not in doubt. They have made a big impact, not only in rock, but on the world in general. Now, the article goes on to say that the Foo Fighters here would have been higher on this list, but they had to cancel a couple of their shows at the end of their last tour due to news that Dave Grohl had a child out of wedlock. He overstepped the PC line, evidently, and there are currently no plans for them to tour in 2025. But their cultural impact, especially a band coming out of the roots of Nirvana and Dave Grohl's undeniable talent, they're on the list. Now, the first big bugaboo I have with this list is the number 9 position, Stevie Nicks. The article even admits, although she hasn't released a solo album in over a decade, Stevie Nicks looms large in modern culture. So they're saying her cultural impact is greater than her album sales, so much more greater that it actually counts for 2 of their criteria. I don't understand where they're coming from, especially when most of Stevie Nicks' cultural impact comes from being a part of Fleetwood Mac. And the article even admits that the future of Fleetwood Mac is pretty much in her hands. That's why she's at number 9. Now, if you think I had problems with number 9, number 8 just blows my mind. Guns N' Roses. Now, they certainly meet one of the criteria here. The band has spent 7 years prior to 2024 on tour. They took 2024 off. They're going to be touring in 2025, so they fit that criteria. I'm not sure what they're talking about as far as cultural impact. They were just one of those bands in the 80s and 90s that were big. They had plenty of competitors around them that would regularly outsell them or sell as well as them. And of course, with no new material and only hints that they're trying to work on one, as their guitarist likes to say, offering absolutely no other details. This band is missing out on 2 of their criteria. I don't agree with them even being in the top 25. Now, I have no trouble with number 7, AC/DC. The article says at the end of the Rock or Bust tour in 2016, it certainly seemed like AC/DC's days as one of rock's most powerful groups were over. Of course, with the death of Malcolm, nobody would have doubted that at the time, but with their excellent power up and their return, despite all kinds of physical maladies, this band has managed to still hold on to a top spot in rock, and their cultural impact is absolutely undeniable. I have no trouble with this particular choice. At number 6, they chose the Eagles. As far as cultural impact goes, they've got that up the yin-yang, no doubt. And all of their albums up until the time of Glenn Frey's death were, as far as I'm concerned, absolutely wonderful pieces of art. And with their residency at the Las Vegas Sphere, they've managed to keep their ticket sales quite high, often charging thousands of dollars for a single seat. But with Don Henley lip syncing and being really the only Eagle left, again, I'll remind you that Joe Walsh and Timothy B. Schmidt were never full-time Eagles. The last full-time Eagle hired to the band was Don Felder. I mean, this band is going out with a whimper and managing to charge us all far too much for the pleasure of hearing them. I'm not sure you even are hearing them anymore. Who knows how much of that band is playing live at this point? Now, at number 5, they chose Bob Dylan. As far as cultural impact, only the Beatles would beat him on that. So the man is a legend, no doubt, and he tours enough, along with the fact that he sold his catalog for $350 million, tells us that he's got the bucks to back up and to be on this list. But you know why they chose him? They chose him for this reason. Here's what they said. How about the fact that he's currently the subject of a major Hollywood movie? Good Lord. Longtime viewers know I'm not a big fan of biopic movies. There's a few that were done well enough that I like to watch them occasionally. But after the fiasco of the Freddie story, the movie was actually entitled Bohemian Rhapsody, I'm off of biopic movies. And to tell you the truth, I was over on Royce in the House and we were discussing this movie. A lot of people are saying they love it, but the movie went bust as far as awards, and people are worrying that this movie may not be the cultural impact they were thinking it was. Now, I knew Bruce Springsteen had to be on this list, and he is. He's number 4. Not only has Bruce consistently released albums, material over the decades, but he has toured consistently, and he sold his catalog, his music catalog, for even more than Bob Dylan, $500 million. And with these guys, they couldn't help it. You see, they're going to be making a new movie on Bruce and another biopic. Oh boy. And he probably got on that list just for that fact alone, considering what they said about Bob Dylan. Number 3, Metallica. Oh man. All right, this is the best heavy metal band in rock as far as I'm concerned. I recently reviewed 72 Seasons, gave it a big thumbs up, and consider it one of the top 3 or 4 albums of 2023. And if you're talking about cultural impact, that's undeniable. They are the kings of heavy metal, and heavy metal, despite what the Rock and Roll Hall of the Inane may say, is a major part of rock and roll. Now that gets us to the number 2 and the number 1 spot, okay? At number 2, they chose Paul McCartney. All right, first of all, Paul McCartney's cultural impact is undeniable. And as far as album sales, the man in his 80s still consistently puts out new music. His last album, Egypt Station, actually becoming a number 1 album, the first number 1 album since Tug of War. The man has reached billionaire status, and his time with the Beatles alone tells us what kind of cultural impact he's had, but he also has a wonderful solo career and a career with another band called Wings. At number 1, they chose the Rolling Stones, and you know what? I have no problem with the Rolling Stones being very high on this list. Their latest album, Hackney Diamonds, I think is one of their better albums. It's in the middle there, but on the top edge of that middle, and they are consistently touring, and I love Living in a Ghost Town. That song right there tells you they have a cultural significance to recent history. But you know, it's with these two artists that I have trouble with their criteria here. All right? So first of all, when you consider album sales of two recent albums, the list makes less sense. The Rolling Stones sold 64,606 physical copies, 4,373 digital downloads, and 3,225 sales equivalent streams. Now, they didn't break that down for McCartney here, but when I look at McCartney's stats here, Egypt Station sold 147,000 copies, because you know he has further digital copies sold and he gets streaming revenue, but they failed to bring this up. Now, as far as ticket sales and money earned, the Stones earned $235 million and sold 848,000 tickets, while McCartney brought in $194,642,577, with over 151 million tickets sold. By their own criteria, they should have put Paul McCartney at number 1 on this list. And in my opinion, they shouldn't have put Stevie Nicks on this list at all. And I think the Eagles are dead as a band. But there you have it. There are the top 11 power brokers in rock and roll. They will have the most to say about anything coming out for rock fans this year. All right, that's the video for tonight. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. That helps with views and helps channel growth. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel as of yet, that's easy. All you have to do is hit that subscribe to the tribe button, tap that top bell icon, and you'll be notified of all of my future videos. It's funny how it works that way. All right, I'm Michael Noland. This is The Bottom Line. The bottom line as I see it. I want to hear from each and every one of you tonight. My question to you tonight is, what do you think of this list? Do you think it's valid? Are rock and roll's best days behind it? I want to hear from each and every one of you. That way we show everyone that we are the tribe.